Hi folks, Tino here with the Countdown to Kick-Off show ahead of a night where Celtic take on Kilmarnock with a chance to wrap up the Scottish Premiership title for a third consecutive season. Joined for this one by Brydo. Brydo, are you just about over the drama of the weekend, and how are you feeling about this one?
No, I'm still high as a kite, mate, to be honest. I'm talking to people I've not met yet since after the game and getting their take on it and just how they celebrated on Saturday. I was lucky to beat the Player of the Year on Sunday as well, which just kind of carried on the feel-good factor. It was an absolutely sensational night, actually. It was very well put together. A bit of a gamble, no doubt, because if it didn't go to get well on Saturday, then Sunday might have been a bit different. But you know what? That's just how we do it, I suppose. So yeah, no, still riding the wave, mate. And looking forward to the next kind of couple of nights. I think it'll be. If anybody's got any doubts, if even James has got any doubts, I think they'll be put to bed in the next couple of nights.
Yeah, I hope you're right. You know, was at the Hydro as well. Cheers for not finding me and buying me a beer. But the event was, it's a risky one. Everything you do in Celtic world is risky if you're not getting results on the park. You know, if you bring out a new kit or a book or some sort of campaign or anything, let alone a night in front of 12,000 fans at the Hydro. If things aren't going well in terms of what Brendan Rodgers and his players are doing, these things inevitably get a lot of flack. But coupled with the fact that Saturday was so good, you know, getting the win against Rangers, and you're spot on what you say, I thought the event was excellent. It was really well put on. Clearly a lot of work had gone into it. And obviously when you bring along Henrik Larsson and a few others, it's always got a fair chance of success. But I thought it was timed perfectly, and you can't always predict these things, but it was timed perfectly, wasn't it, on the back of what the players done on Saturday?
Yeah, it was. And what was great as well was a real collective as well. I thought the stuff with the women's team and things, I thought that was excellently put together too. And I think it's important that they have their place. So it was really nice hearing from the women's manager. They can go win the league at the weekend as well. And whether or not women's football is your thing or whatever, Celtic is, you know, and if you're listening into podcasts like ours, then Celtic will be your thing. And I think if it's a nice day, nice weather and stuff, then to try to get so many people there to support them, I think it's a really good thing as well, because it is Celtic altogether. I know that the majority of us all go and watch the men's game. We spend a lot of money watching the men's game, but it'd be great if they could get the crowds that they got at the running last year as well. So it was great that they could get their point across too.
Do you know, Brendan Rodgers was asked on the night, and he was asked again this afternoon at the press conference about the importance of that unity that Celtic can bring. Someone asked about the holy trinity of the manager, the players and the fans all being in it together. And Rodgers stressed again just how special a force and how strong a force Celtic can be when we're all moving in the same direction. He mentioned that the first 6 months of the campaign here was awkward. That's the word they used. It was awkward. And he was referencing the fact that he knows he wasn't universally accepted. You know, I think he's got enough self-awareness to realise that not everyone welcomed his return to Celtic, and he said he respects that. You know, people are entitled to their opinion, and he'll handle that, you know, as best he can. But again, Brydo, like I said a minute ago, the one big way to turn anything around in Celtic world is winning games of football and winning league titles. And I know we're not over the line yet, and we'll get to that in terms of the detail ahead of Kilmarnock, but he's doing all he can, and I think bit by bit he's chipping away at some of the doubters that remain.
Yeah, and I think he's doing that in a number of different kind of facets, if you like. He's doing that with keeping it together in the harder times of the season, coming out fighting, which I'll talk about at some point tonight as well. Like, you know, when the chips were a bit down, he didn't just blame and, you know, point the finger. He sucked up and he got his results. And then also how he's responded when it's been going well, and he's not made any excuses about anything. He's just came out. He's not had lists of players that were unavailable. He's not made points about how many points he's won since he's came in and all that. He's straight up just said, "I'm here to win trophies for Celtic," and he's done that under a bit of pressure because of what's happened before, like you said. But he'll never turn around the most stubborn of people. But you know what? That's entirely up to them. You know, I'd sooner rather go to Celtic Park with the opinion of just wanting to support, you know, just wanting to be positive and and playing your very, very small part in the team winning. And we play our part in different ways as Celtic supporters. We buy strips, we buy subscriptions and all that too. Do you know, but it's not just about the people that turn up on the day. So yeah, I think as a manager, he's led us through that. And, you know, like you said, hopefully the next couple of days he'll lead us to the title. I'd like to think a double. And then he can really, really get to work and give us, you know, that kind of the vintage Celtic perhaps that we were looking for, but we haven't really seen this season. We've not seen the scintillating Celtic that we're kind of been used to recently. But he's got it together, and I think it should be an exciting summer for Celtic. I think it should be an exciting summer.
It's got to be. He was asked that question, and he was reluctant to look too far ahead. You know, someone said with the potential money for winning the title this season and the new Champions League format, you know, what's the big plans? And he doesn't want to go down that road. He doesn't want to tempt fate. Listen, we're 99% over the line here, but there's still a wee bit of work to do, and he won't get drawn into that. But he did lean towards the fact that it's an ongoing thing. You've always got to be preparing for what's next. And he said there's no doubt that you need to come back stronger. He made a couple of interesting points. He referenced his first spell and the fact that he went to a game at Ross County and had to bring in at the time what were a couple of reserves. And it was Stuart Armstrong and Ryan Christie, who have both gone on to excel in the Premier League. He also then mentioned a trip they went to in Dubai where he played first team v second team, you know, deemed the better side versus the lesser side. And the second string won 5-0 and gave him food for thought. What he is saying there is at the moment he doesn't have the depth. He doesn't have that. So you couldn't bring in like for like in terms of quality. But what he did do, and it's clever management, it's a guy who's very experienced in the press, Brydo. What he did do was mention that, or he credited the professionalism of those who haven't been playing. He says because there's still a requirement to turn up and do your job in terms of training and making sure the sessions can go as planned. And he accepts that everybody wants to play football, everyone wants to start games, but it's not feasible. I don't know how many's up there just now. Lennoxtown, somewhere between 25 and 30 players. But the guys that are around, and I'm thinking it is guys like Kobayashi, Lager Bielka, various others. You know, there's any number of names doing the rounds, but these guys have all just buckled down and done their job. And that, listen, they're well paid to do so. Being a footballer it's a privileged life, particularly at a club like Celtic. But human nature kicks in, and for some, it might have been easier to down tools, take the huff, and, you know, go through the motions, to use the term of the day in training. He said real credit is due, and I think what you've got there, Brydo, is a real harmony across the board. And I don't think you can achieve what Celtic look like they're just about to achieve without that harmony across the board.
No, it's very difficult to manufacture that, and, you know, and try to paint it off as happening when it's not, because we're all been watching football for long enough to know when something's not quite right. We can see that at other teams, you know, we can see when it's not quite right, and we enjoy it when it's not quite right. But no, I think we see that in different levels. So I think we see it over a longer period. So guys like Liam Scales coming in, so then he's done that for a longer period. He wasn't expecting to play, I dare say. He was probably nearly out the door, and he's come in and done that. And then you see it more acutely like on Saturday when Ralston's then given the call to come in a really tense period of the game. Although we weren't under, you know, they weren't peppering the goal with chances. But, you know, many of us would have the opinion that, I don't, keep me away from it, you know, don't put me on in case I make a mistake. But he went in and he was right into the game. And I heard you boys in some of the post-game stuff, and he was right into the game, you know, in the first 35, 40 seconds of being on the pitch. He makes some important headers. We've never doubted Ralston's attitude, but I'd imagine he's talking about people like that and the ones that you've mentioned earlier on, because it is a squad game, and we've had to use the squad throughout the whole season. A lot of us, sometimes we have short memories. We forget that we had about 7 centre-halves at one point, but then none of them were fit. Hence when Scales gets his opportunity. So, and we'll not mention that, Phillips. Oh, then I went and done it. I went and mentioned them. So sorry, lads. But yeah, it's a squad game, and he's right to make praise if that's the case, because that's what brings the harmony.
Yeah, and you don't and can't win league titles in the modern game with 11, 12, 13 players. Things happen, suspensions, injuries, and any number of different things throughout the year. So you need your squad, and I think he's managed that well. That in itself, just to manage that squad is a challenge, and then to make them a winning squad and a winning team, you know, it's a huge effort. Before we kick on, Brydo, thanks to everyone who continues to join us in the live comments. Get some Regular viewers, Colin Stewart, Stephen Kennedy, Big Dom, Northampton Tim, Jim Hunter, loads of folks, Northampton Tim had mentioned, and certainly Chris Gannon, good friend of the show, sometimes contributor on the show, all the way from Orlando. So hello to Chris and everyone who continues to join us. As always, let us know any questions or comments, specifically to the Kilmarnock game if you can, and myself and Brydo will try and catch that between now and the end of the recording. Brydo, in terms of the players themselves, you're on a high from Saturday. You then got into Sunday's event that we spoke about, feel-good factor doing the rounds, Matt O'Reilly, triple winner, player of the year, players player of the year, and young player of the year at 23 years of age, Kyogo top goal scorer. Just a really good Celtic night and just really good Celtic vibes doing the round at the moment. But they need to bring themselves back down to earth, don't they? You know, tough trip at Killie, a place we've lost twice at this season, plastic pitch, which doesn't help. They've just qualified. They've guaranteed 4th position and qualified for Europa League qualification. How do the players approach this? How do you go from the highs of Saturday into the business-like approach they'll need to take tomorrow night?
I think they take the lead from the manager and they take the lead from guys like Callum McGregor, Carter Vickers and Joe Hart. They're not going to they're not going to give anything away for nothing. You know, it's going to be a tough game. You know, we've been beat there on 2 occasions already. So there may be a wee bit of we kind of owe them one. But, you know, they're a very good side. They play to their strengths very, very well. I actually think Derek McInnes is the manager of the year, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's, I know they gave it to a Falkirk manager who's 2 divisions below, which is a bit of a nonsense. But yeah, I think he knows how to build a team. He's taken a team from relegation to European football, which is, I think, is an incredible achievement. So Celtic will be under no illusions it's going to be a tough game. And I think that it's the manager, what he says, and the experienced players will just keep everyone's feet on the ground, and you know the celebrations will come. It might even come tonight. We might not even be involved with tomorrow. But if it is, we do our job and we take that professional approach that our manager is one of the best in the business at doing, is maintaining those standards and not accepting standards any less. So I'm fairly confident that that's how they'll approach the game.
Yeah, and with Brendan Rodgers and Derek McInnes, there's a genuine mutual respect there. They seem to have a good relationship. And again, speaking this afternoon, Brendan spoke very highly of him and the talents he's got. And some guys can have a couple of years at a club and do well and then disappear. The fact that he's done consistently well, particularly with Aberdeen and Kilmarnock, it shows that he's got something to offer as a coach. He was at Bristol City or Bristol Rovers, one of the two. Didn't quite work out. I wonder if he's maybe got designs on heading back down there at one point. But at the moment, the here now is that he's got a Kilmarnock side playing good football and a comfortable 4th in the table. You've also got that danger, Brydo, of a team that's now playing with their freedom, given that they've achieved their goal for the season. This is as high as they're going to get, and they'll already be thinking. Some players naturally will have a head on the beach, thinking of the summer and the break, and some will already be looking to next year and what they're hoping to achieve there. But that in itself can be a danger, can't it?
It definitely can, because there's when teams are playing against Celtic, Celtic have a lot of the ball, and when these other teams get the ball, sometimes there's a nervousness. They've not, they can't create the same. They give the ball away, give the possession back to Celtic, all the rest of it, and then it just becomes a wave after attack, and eventually they succumb to the powers in their final third. When you don't have anything to lose, all of a sudden, you're free-spirited, you could try something you don't normally try, it might come off, you might get one of those nights. They're riding the crest of their wave, and they deserve all the credit that's coming their way. I just think there's going to be 2 good teams going up against each other, both try to play at their strengths. I'd imagine Derek McInnes will know exactly how to try and play against Celtic, but it's our job as champions in waiting, if you like, to say, right, we see you, we know what you've got. They've got serious threats. Armstrong, Vassell, Kennedy, those types, backed up by a solid base. The boy Mayo, Finlay, they've been a really good season, and they've got real workers and legs in the middle of the park, which our opposition on Saturday didn't have. So I actually think it'll be a far, far tougher game, just because of the pitch, the kind of free-spirited approach they can take, but also, the confidence that they've got in their own game. And I think we should show them the highest amount of respect that we can. But our manager will do that, our experienced players will do that, and I can't see anything other than Celtic coming out with not even just a draw, just coming out with a win and winning it in style, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think there's no doubt there won't be any complacency. You know, if Celtic don't get the win on the day, it won't be for lack of treating Kelly with respect and approach it in the right manner. In terms of the 5 post-split fixtures, Brydo, this one was definitely earmarked as the toughest of the lot. So we took care of Dundee away, 2-1, pretty neat, but got the result. Hearts, brilliant performance. Rangers, relatively comfortable win despite the scoreline there. And this is the potential banana skin, that everyone talked about. And yeah, of course, the bigger picture, as you mentioned as well, is that Celtic are in the driving seat to clinch the title if we take, as little as 1 point from our last 2 games, or if Rangers take anything but maximum points from their game tonight against Dundee, or, geez, I don't even know who they play. They be Hearts. They play Hearts the weekend, who don't do anything against Rangers, as we know. Just a quick one. What do you see happening at Ibrox tonight? It's a weird one for them, isn't it? There's a lot of disgruntlement, across the city. There's folks saying they're not going in protest. Philippe Clement says there's 200 players missing through injury and all that stuff. How do you think that one plays out for them? Should they win it comfortably, or is there any doubt?
No, there should be a doubt for sure, because Dundee are playing the same way as Kilmarnock are playing. They're free-spirited. They've got some really good creative players in there. They cause Rangers all sorts of problems, as we've seen. They've probably overachieved what people thought they could from where they were last season. Their manager deserves a hell of a lot of credit for what he's done. But, we've seen this story before. It's really difficult for teams to get back up from a real low. Rangers have been lucky in a number of different ways in the last while. I know they've clung on to this kind of being close to us before Saturday, but the Dundee game away, the Ross County game away, even the Kilmarnock game at home, they're 1-0 down, and Kilmarnock have to go down to 10 men before Rangers start really, really pouring it on. And then even then, it still took a while. So for me, they're not doing that great. And then we seen them on Saturday that there was no tactics whatsoever, Tino. Like, genuinely, there was no tactics that I could see. Well, I could see the tactics. They just weren't pretty. Lobbing it into the fullbacks and trying to win first and second balls. They were hoping to create a chance rather than being proactive and going to create a chance. They're leaving some of their creative players on the bench in a league game that they have to win. So it tells me a lot about where they're at with that. Then, like you said, the list off about 300 names that we've not even heard for the last 4 years apart and they're on the list. I'd like Brendan Rodgers to come out and put Adam Montgomery and all that on our list and see how they go on. But it's part of football. As a manager of Celtic or Rangers, you've got to deal with adversity. Like, Rodgers has dealt with it. Hatate, McGregor, Carter Vickers, right the way through. Kyogo's wee slumping form, losing games, drawing games. But the best manager gets the best out of the players he's got, and he drags them along, and they come out fighting. They've not done that, and they've not shown they can do that. And they've got several players on the way out, and they're not caring anymore. I don't care what anybody says. They're not getting injured before I move away for there. Barisic isn't putting his body in the line. Lundstrom won't be playing. He puts other bodies in the line and wipes them out and gets red cards. So for me, Dundee have got a real chance to get something tonight. There's all talk that they can go win 7-0 and we can lose 1-0, and all of a sudden it's helicopter Sunday. Absolute nonsense. And they can reprint this and replay this all day long. There's no danger that that's happening. And Dundee might well just save us the pressure tomorrow.
They might well do. Do you know, we don't often ask for scoreline predictions till later in the show, Brydo, and we'll get to that. But Jim Hunter's gone early. He's gone for 2-1 Dundee, but it's usually Celtic predictions we look for, Jim. So we'll come back to you on that. But talking about Clement, just very quickly, I talk about managers who create excuse culture within their dressing room. He starts making excuses, therefore players start making excuses. They hear him bemoaning different situations and they go, the manager's right, we don't have such and such today, or the pitch is a bit bobbly, or the sun's not facing the right angle, or whatever you want to do. And if you start making those excuses, you used the term earlier, Brydo, the players tomorrow for Celtic will take their lead from the manager. And all players generally do. And Rangers players will be taking the lead from Philippe Clement, whose comments are getting more and more baffling with each passing week. But what he is doing is he's creating excuses and giving his players an out and that's never a good approach. Listen, let's move on for that. What will be in terms of Rangers Dundee tonight. Celtic, as always, and as they have done in recent times under Brendan Rodgers, will focus on their own business and see where it takes us. In terms of the lineup, Brydo, I'm not sure where to go with this one. The team on Saturday very much picked itself, and I think most folks would just about have got that one right. Do you see it following a similar pattern? Keeping in mind the surface might come into Brendan Rodgers' thinking at some point.
It could, it could. I'm not sure if you need to remind me, but I don't know if Carter Vickers has struggled on those type of surfaces before. I can't remember if he's maybe been left out. Maybe certain injuries that's happened. I can't remember, but we've certainly had that over the years where players couldn't play on it. There could be the argument, that Ida could play over Kyogo, just the type of game it might be. But it could quite easily be the same team. I don't know if Johnson's still struggling from that shocking tackle that Kenny Miller thought was fair on Saturday. So it could be perhaps that Ralston comes in for him if he's been struggling. But I think he'll probably go with the same team if Johnson's fit, of course. But yeah, with that pitch, Kilmarnock quite a physical team. It might change. It might change something. But if he did it, I don't think it'll be wholesale changes for sure. I think it's get the job done and then we can maybe rest players at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it might be a couple of tweaks here and there, just in terms of Carter Vickers. And I think Kieran in the comments makes the point that CCV tends to miss Killie games away. Don't think he likes the plastic pitch for his knees. He made his comeback after injury, Carter Vickers, on the 25th of February against Motherwell. He played half an hour in that game. He then played Dundee the next week, 58 minutes. He then played 90 minutes against Hearts, so back up to full flow. And then he got taken out for the Livy game the following week, just completely taken out the squad. And I think he's just been managed through. Obviously, he came back from a tricky one, and that might well happen tomorrow night. I don't know who fits in there. Is Mike Nawrocki back as the next best thing, or is it Stephen Welsh? I don't know.
I think it's really important that Carter Vickers, if possible, does play. And for the simple fact is the boy Vassell causes all sorts of problems. And unlike Dessers at the weekend, he didn't pinpoint the weakest part of our defence. Now, I'm not having a go at Scales because I thought he had a good game in regards to the balls going in the box and all the rest of it. Defending, he done all right. He done very well. Just on the ball, he's still got his limitations. But, he does try and... Scales does have a habit of trying to nick in front and get rolled and bullied a bit by some strikers. Vassell is an absolute unit, and I would feel far more comfortable if there's any way that Carter Vickers can play. I'd be putting him in. It's almost still too big a game to risk not playing him. So if he's missed games before just because that's the timing and he can play in the pitch, then by all means he has to play for me. He's an absolute, and not even just that. Just as soon as he's came back, I don't know his effect on other players or the way the team plays collectively, but he's been absolutely massive to what we're trying to do and what we have done in the game since he came back.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I need to just correct myself here. So you'll see the comment on screen from John Clements. He says Carter Vickers played in the last Livy game, and Brendan says Johnson is fine, which is true. Just to correct myself, he did miss a Livingston game as part of his recovery, but it was at Celtic Park, so disregard that in terms of the plastic pitch, my mistake. And then, as John rightly says, he played against Livy away at the very end of March, 31st of March, in a 3-0 win for Celtic. So maybe if he's fully up to speed, Brendan will feel comfortable with that. But there's no doubt, Brydo, he's a huge leader. We recorded the weekly show last night, myself, James Smith and Paddy, and in one of the sections we spoke about, or we debated, who was the one individual who played the most pivotal role in turning Celtic's season back around. And it wasn't a short list. There was several guys that you could tag for that. Carter Vickers returning from injury, Hatate coming back, Callum McGregor coming back, Maeda's re-emergence, James Forrest, what he's done over the piece, Joe Hart stepping up big time. And there's so many big characters in that dressing room. And I also think that these guys don't want rested. Probably none of them do. There's only 3 games remaining. And I think you ask any of these players, they want to play all 90 minutes, and all 3 of them, don't they?
Absolutely, and they're wanting to. Who doesn't want to play in the game that you win the league? There's not a single player that doesn't want to play in that, So I fully expect to see him playing, and I would agree if I was to have asked that question. For me, it is Carter Vickers because we've seen the shambles that we had when he wasn't in there. We scraped through some games, Adam Ida's an important player as well, since he came in January, and the big goals that he scored in big games, Motherwell, Easter Road, so everyone, there's so many who had a big part to play, be it small amount, but they're big moments and they've turned up. For me, Carter Vickers is the main stage. If he's playing, we play 5-10 yards further up the pitch, but more controlled in possession. We exert our game on the opposition far more. We're not reacting to what's going on because we're not giving needless throw-ins away. We're not, giving the ball away in bad passes to midfield or the fullbacks. He's on it, and I think he makes it easier for Scales. And I think we spoke about that back when he wasn't playing. Having a Nawrocki or a Lagerbielke or a Scales playing isn't necessarily the biggest problem. The problem was two of them were playing at the same time, and that was the problem. There's no real experienced leader to come in and show them exactly what to do. And so him coming back in is absolutely massive for me. Massive when he did. And the results kind of showed with that. The Hearts game's the only game, and that has other factors alongside it with the Yang and the handball to get a penalty. And that's pretty much the only game I remember that we I think is that the only game we dropped any points in the last since he came back.
Well, that and the draw with Rangers. So yeah,
the draw right enough.
Very few
so
points.
Can't have Vickers for me all day.
You've got Stephen Kennedy in the comments saying that Vickers is the best centre half in Scotland. Don't think many would disagree with that. And decent question following the weekend from Paul Brady. Paul asks, does Hatate start or Iwata tomorrow? And that's a funny one, Brydo. You had that situation going into Saturday where I was surprised by it, but Saturday was the first occasion all season against Rangers where that three of McGregor, O'Reilly and Hatate started together. And as much as Hatate didn't have his best game, I think that's okay. That's fair to say. He did play a part in ensuring that Celtic controlled the game. There's an old cliche, control the midfield, control the game. And I thought there was a lot of that going on. But there is a debate that he might just get taken out the firing line. You might put Iwata in there for a bit of stability and then reintroduce Hatate later on in the game. What do you think? What would you do yourself?
I think Hatate starts, but there's absolutely 100% right to have the debate about was he on too long in a game of that magnitude on Saturday. The short corner one when he gives it away, he's treading water. He can't get back. I thought he was going to pull him back and get a second yellow, and that'd be levelled up. I think I'm so glad he didn't do that. But the good thing is about the way the season's panned out is guys like Iwata now. Me and you vary in our opinion on Iwata. I think Iwata's okay, but for me, you play Hatate but you don't play him as long. You don't play him as long. As soon as there's any ounce of wait a minute, he's slowing down a bit, then we fire him in. And we've seen that with Hatate before, not being up to speed. And Rodgers at the start of the season, if I remember right, Hatate was actually available to play and Turnbull started. So yes. He has got his issues regarding Hatate not being at full fitness or firing all cylinders. So it wouldn't be a massive surprise. And that would be one of the wee tweaks we're talking about, because he's one player that a lot of us did have a slight, know what happened to Hatate, but he was still involved in a positive kind of impact. He played his part in setting up a few chances, and he played part in a three-man midfield that absolutely dominated the opposition. They dragged them around silly. They didn't know what they were doing, apart from trying to elbow in the back of the head or taking people's legs away. Lundstrom, Lawrence and Diamandi, they're still looking for them, I think, to be perfectly honest. So to me, those three start. Actually, they've only played together 7 times, I heard, that they be all season, and that shows you the injuries we've had as well. So I think we start with them, but it's a fair point that people make about Iwata. But I think going forward, I think we need to have we need a better option than Iwata in the middle of the park, to be honest with you, if we're to progress.
You might be right, and I am a fan of him, but I think that's what Rodgers might be referencing when he talks about that depth. I think Iwata can do a job for now, but maybe he, amongst others, want a better option, a higher caliber option that you're almost going like for like. Do you do, you play Rio Hatate for 60, 65, and then you swap out a fresh alternative who can do the same job for the last 30 minutes. I do think Rio Hatate left himself walking a tightrope with that late tackle in the second half. Lundstrom had just been sent off, and he dived into a tackle needlessly. You could debate whether it was a yellow or not, but he didn't need to make the tackle, and you didn't need to give the ref a decision to make. and that leaves you walking the tightrope for the full of the second half. He then lasts up to 80 minutes, which I thought he was flagging before that, and I do think that's one that a change that Rodgers should have made a fair bit earlier on. What we'll do, Brydo, I'll ask you one last question, and before I do so, to encourage anyone in the chat to start giving us their scoreline predictions, I'll be coming to Brydo soon for his, so let us know in the chat what you think in terms of Celtic v Killie. Brydo, the last question will be about the wings. A much debated area all season for Celtic. So many guys have had their opportunity out there from, let me get my head right. There's Marco Tellio, who's no longer in the building. There's Abada, who's no longer in the building, of course. There's James Forrest, who's just returned to the fold. There's Nicholas Kuhn, who came in January. There's Yang, who came in summer. There's Daisen Maeda, who's Daisen Maeda. I've possibly missed one or two.
Mikey Johnson.
Louis Palmer and Mikey Johnson. How many was that? About 8, potentially.
I've counted 36, mate.
And it's only now at this stage we've kind of settled on Maeda and James Forrest, with Nicholas Kuhn being the backup. Rodgers obviously likes Kuhn, and I think we can see that. I think Kuhn's going to be a player for next year now. There's obviously not a lot of time left either, but I think there's something about him, and he trusted him enough to bring him on at the weekend as well. But do you think he goes with that experience? Daisen Maeda's a very experienced player now, of course. Played at World Cups, scored at World Cups, and very comfortable right now in what Celtic require from him. James Forrest, we don't need to say too much. He's very much a trusted lieutenant of Brendan Rodgers. Does he go with those two? Or does he mix it up? Does he rest James a wee bit? What do you think?
I think he goes with the two that started on Saturday. I think Forrest has shown that he's able to do the things that the other players haven't done. And he deserves his spot in a team that can go and win the league. It's a real privilege for any player to be able to do that for Celtic. And I think he, it probably epitomises what Rodgers was talking about, people sitting, waiting, professional, and then taking their chance when they get it, and that's what he's done. And I think it would be, okay, they could say, you played on Saturday, how are you feeling? Can you play the 2 games? But I mean, he's not 90, he's not. He looks in good shape, and again, you play him, and you might just take him off slightly earlier than you did because of the 2 games and the pitch. The pitch can be quite a tough gig. But I think Maeda and Forrest, and that just puts us on the front foot again. And yes, Kilmarnock have got their threats, and we've gave them a lot of credit. And it'll not be easy, but I think we need to maintain possession in the final third. And James Forrest does that better than any of the wingers that we've got, including Maeda. But Maeda gives you everything else. And he scores those 2 goals on Saturday in the offside. He felt a bit unlucky, but he still got his celebration with the fans, and the adrenaline will be buzzing for everybody. And I think you just keep the same players as best you can.
Yeah, I think Daisen Maeda is as energised and at the highest point of his Celtic career right now. He's clearly at the top of his game, loving life and feeling very loved by the fans, and that's huge. And in terms of James Forrest, his ball retention is incredible, and I think that's proven really valuable in these last few weeks. A few different scorelines coming in, Brydo, so let's see if I can highlight a few. San Fran Celtic, good friend of the show, he's gone for 2 each, which would be fine. Paul Brady, 2-0. Jim Hunter, 3-0, but we'll take any sort of 3 points on the day. You then get Patrick McLaughlin going for 3-1 Celtic. Big Dom going for the same scoreline, as has Colin Stewart, actually. So 3-1 for all 3 of those lads. Brydo, I'll come to yourself. What are you thinking? Do you see it being a nervy one? Will we sprint over the line as Brendan Rodgers has requested? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be a really good game. I think the 2 teams will try, and I think Killie will, like we said, free-spirited, and they'll go for it and play at their strengths as best they can. But I think that'll help open the door for Celtic a wee bit. And I think I'd say a 3-1. I've shared the same view as the boys that have fired it on there. I think 3-1 to Celtic. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think Kilmarnock have got a lot of firepower in regards to that. Like I said, Armstrong, Vassell in particular. But I just think that we're flying. I think O'Reilly is riding his own personal wave, and I think that he'll bang one in anyway for sure. And I just think it's such an easy team talk. Just go and get the job done and try and enjoy the moment. And I think 2 or 3-1, but I'll go with 3-1 for a more positive spin on it.
Brendan Rodgers was asked in this afternoon's press conference, how do you prepare players for the run-in? And I think he's been asked that type of question a few times in recent weeks, but he said it's not about that. It's a longer-term project. You know, you're doing the same things and creating the same habits throughout the season. So obviously the intensity changes over the last couple of months, say, but the principles of what he's doing and how he's preparing the players doesn't change. And I think that's why you get the rewards. If you start making wholesale changes in terms of your approach in March and April, then you're running a really risky game. A couple more scorelines come in. 420 somewhere has gone for 2-0. Paul McGurk, and I like Paul's style. Paul has gone for 5-0 somewhere. Let me see that. Yep, another 5-0 would be nice. So I hope you're right, Paul. I'm going to go for 1-0, Brydo. And I don't think it'll be a hugely nervous occasion, but it might get nervous, a bit later on in the game when the players realise how close you are to the line. And I think that's human nature. We've seen a wee bit of anxiety creeping in on Saturday. And there was a moment in particular for me where Alistair Johnson kind of panicked a wee bit. Celtic were under a mild spell of pressure, a moderate spell of pressure, and he shelled one from his right back position out to the touchline on the main stand side. He just panicked when a wee bit of composure and finding your pass would have done the job. And even Matt O'Reilly, potentially the coolest guy in the whole squad, the most balanced guy, he gets it all wrong with the penalty. He said he changed his mind halfway through. And it shows that no matter how talented these guys are, the occasion can get to them. And I think there might be a wee bit of that tomorrow. I'm going for the clean sheet, though, because Joe Hart, as we know, is now counting them down. And for a striker, if your career's about to end, you say, I'm going to go out with as many goals as I can get. His big target is as many clean sheets. I don't know his clean sheet record throughout his career. I know that after Saturday, he's now played 700 professional games, 150 of them for Celtic. And he'll be looking to add 3 more clean sheets to his record between this one, St Mirren on Saturday, and Rangers in the cup final. So I'm going to give him it. I think he'll get the clean sheet, but it won't be maybe as many goals as we hope. So I'm going to go for 1-0. Last scoreline that's come in from Kaiser, hello to him. He's gone for 4-0 at the hoops. Brydo, plenty talking, loads to cover. There's just loads of stuff going on right now. Least of all the players still playing for a cup final place as well. You can't dismiss the fact that everyone's desperate, and that's only a week and a half away as well. But your own final thoughts ahead of the trip to Rugby Park?
Yeah, I think just try and keep that positivity from the weekend. The fans will be there in number. I'm sure they'll be dotted all over the Kilmarnock end as well. Like I said, it might just be to have a party because it might be over and done with. But this season we've not seen that kind of, like I said earlier, the scintillating Celtic. We've had to fight and scrap, and we've mentioned that numerous times. If you can't win playing that certain way, you've got to scrap, you've got to fight for it. And I think the managers came out fighting, the captains came out fighting, and I just think they've done that. And if it does develop into that type of game, I back us to do that against a really decent side who fight for each other. That's one big thing Kilmarnock have got. And I just think it's there for the taking, and I just don't think Celtic will. I just don't think that we'll miss that opportunity to get it sealed if we have to do it tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it a lot. I wish I was going to the game, but I can't because of work commitments and stuff. But it's we've had lots of great title wins. We've, like you said, we've sprinted over the line. We've probably jogged over the line because we won it weeks and weeks before. A lot of talk about the two teams are poor and all that. I'm not buying that. To win a title at Celtic, it's they're all special. They have to be special. Otherwise, what's the point in going? And I just think that watching Rangers win 9 in a row as a wee boy, I'm not taking any of these for granted at all, no matter. Okay, we could get better players and maybe we could have played better. But I'll tell you what, it means the same and I'll celebrate it just as much. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm very confident that we'll get over the line.
100%, mate. Do you know, I mentioned in recent weeks that every title should be cherished and everyone will have their favourites. Myth was talking, we'll keep this for next week's show, but Myth was talking about the potential for this to be one of his favourites, closely behind the 2008 title for Tommy and stopping the 10 in 98. And others will have other memories, Love Street 86, first one under Ange, whatever. There's loads of big occasions, but as I say, you must cherish each and every title win, and hopefully we're just about to secure the next one. Brydo, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, of course, to everyone who continues to join us on the live and everyone that listens as the Celtic Exchange podcast. I'm going to the game tomorrow. Myself and James and a couple of guys are heading down, managed to get tickets. I nearly had to settle for home end, Brydo, but I managed to get into the Celtic end, which is good. We'll be bringing you the podcast or the post-match reaction on Thursday afternoon, so myself and James will join you for that one. But in the meantime, hopefully, a huge night for Celtic at Rugby Park. We'll see you guys again very soon.